Welcome back to the Soulful of It podcast, where the cosmos meet the cards and the mundane becomes magical. I'm your guide, 𝗧𝗶𝗺𝗀, and in this episode, we'll explore the astrological transits and tarot for the second half of March 2026. If you're thirsty for a soul-filling conversation, then you have come into the right orbit. So let's fill up your cup until you're soul full of it. Hello, Soulful Seekers, and thank you for tuning into another episode. March has certainly been an eventful month as eclipse season and the foggy Mercury retrograde have really dominated the energetic field. But with Jupiter now stationed direct and the spring equinox in sight, there is hope in the air, even as the energy of uncertainty continues to linger around us. Astrologers have been speaking of the cosmic shifts this year brings for a really long time. And if we weren't seeing why that was before, I'm pretty sure we can all say that we're seeing it now, or at least feeling it. There is no numbness for the friction of fateful events unfolding, and I'm betting if you're listening to this that you have been awake for a while now. They say that ignorance is bliss, but what if we can cultivate our own bliss without the ignorance? What if there is a way to be wildly awakened and also centered around our personal joy? What if that joy, ever present within us, is the ultimate protest in the face of an often unforgiving and unjust world? Going back to my simulation monologue from the February episodes, the more I think of life as a game, the more determined that I am to find side quests to expand my awareness and to call in cheat codes to help me quantum leap to higher frequencies. Leaning into the mantra that loving myself heals my life. If we all give ourselves the love that we seek, could it help heal the world? Could it even maybe then soften the game? Simmer on these rhetorical questions, or don't. But before I get too philosophical, let's take a journey through the tarot and see what the Soulful of Wisdom spread offers us for the second half of March, beginning with revisiting our rose of the month, the Eight of Wands, which is really reminding us that March is a time of acceleration. We are flying fast as the winds of change rattle our concept of time and challenge our reserves of energy. In part one, we talked about the Eight of Wands being an invitation to trust the direction that the wind is blowing, which feels as though it's being tested at this point. I mean, what is trust in the middle of a tornado? Well, I think that that's what you might want to call, or at least what I call, the tornado of transition. It's the infamous story of the caterpillar becoming a butterfly, and we're at the lost in darkness, feeling like goo part of things. It's uncomfortable to be waiting to bloom, and yet it is also uncomfortable to be fluttering around in motion. So what can we do? We can pack lighter for beginners. Take a moment and assess if all that you are trying to carry with you into this next chapter, the one that opens here soon with the astrological new year, really needs to come with you. This can be physical, but it can also be mental or emotional, because those two can weigh us down. And that can make the movement of these 8 wands feel heavier and harder than need be. So let's pack light, like the Fool, with his simple knapsack and allow ourselves to take flight with faith that the journey itself will reveal the destination. Then, for our thorns, we have the High Priestess. In the traditional Smith-Rider-Waite tarot deck imagery, the High Priestess sits between 2 pillars, one black and one white, marked with the letters B and J, representing the pillars of Boaz and Yahin from the Temple of Solomon. She wears a lunar crown and holds a scroll that's partially hidden beneath her cloak, and behind her hangs a veil decorated with pomegranates, symbolizing a sacred knowledge and hidden mysteries. At her feet rests a crescent moon, and water flows behind the veil, representing the unconscious mind and the intuitive realm. As our thorns, the High Priestess brings our attention to what remains unseen or that is just not quite yet understood. While the Eight of Wands moves quickly, This card asks us to slow down internally and listen intently to the truths that lie beneath the surface. The challenge here may be trusting our intuition when external events are so loud and so distracting that we can't seem to get a quiet enough moment to hear our inner voice speak. With the Mercury retrograde, there may be context that we're missing or information that hasn't fully revealed itself yet that we have been waiting on as some sort of confirmation that our gut or our heart are sensing things correctly. But the High Priestess reminds us that not every answer arrives through analysis. If we wait around for someone else to give us a stamp of approval, we may be waiting forever. The High Priestess, as our Thorns, invites us to trust our inner knowing. The message here isn't to stop the momentum. It's to remain attuned to your inner compass, even while everything around you is swirling so quickly. Then, for our basis or root, we see a man and a woman facing one another, each holding a golden cup. Between them rises a caduceus, topped with a lion's head and wings, a symbol of balance, communication, and mutual exchange. The figures mirror each other's body language, suggesting harmony, connection, and shared intention. At the root of this spread lies, you may have guessed it based on the description, the Two of Cups, which is grounding our fast-moving energy coming from the Eight of Wands into connection and reciprocity. This card speaks to relationships in many forms: romantic, creative, collaborative, and even the most important relationship in all of our lives, which is, of course, the relationship that we have with ourselves. Beneath the momentum of March is an opportunity to move through the month in partnership rather than in isolation. There is wisdom in recognizing who is truly aligned with you, with respect, honesty, and emotional intelligence. And what makes the big difference now is taking that recognition and allowing it to inspire action to ask for the support or the simple companionship that you need. And if another's company is not what will soothe you, then your task is to become such great company yourself that even when you are alone, you are not lonely. Finally, we have our sun, the Four of Swords. In the traditional Smith-Rider-Waite tarot deck imagery, a knight lies resting on a carved tomb inside of what looks like a quiet chapel. His hands are folded upon himself in prayer, and 3 swords hang on the wall above him, while a 4th rests beneath him. Light filters through a stained glass window nearby, illuminating the stillness of the room. As our guidance, the 4 of Swords serves as an important counterbalance to the rapid movement of our Rose, the 8 of Wands. While March may feel as though it's moving a million miles a minute, this card centers us around rest, reflection, and recovery as key ingredients to sustaining the momentum. Not every moment requires a reaction. Sometimes the most productive choice is to pause long enough to integrate what has already occurred and to simply catch your breath. This card encourages us to take intentional breaks from the noise, stress, or overthinking. Creating space for rest allows intuition, the wisdom of the High Priestess, to rise to the surface and to bring clarity to the connections that are represented by the Two of Cups. In a month filled with movement, the 4 of Swords is a soft landing for a pit stop, showing us that recovery and reflection are an integral part of the journey, not a detour from the destination. And with that guidance from the tarot, let's turn to the astrology to see how the second half of March continues to shape the unfolding story in the skies, starting with the new moon in Pisces taking place at 6:24 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday, the 18th at 28 degrees Pisces, of course. It's the new moon in Pisces. And this is our first lunation in the sign of Pisces since Saturn departed the sign of the fish, which we can welcome as a relief from the hard work of Saturnian energy. But that doesn't mean that there isn't heart work to be done here, as we're now tasked with the integrating of lessons from Saturn's transit through Pisces. And with this new moon taking place at the end degrees of Pisces, it's signaling a separation or a letting go. And I really do think that this has something to do with that recent departure of Saturn. What lesson have you learned externally that you still need to digest internally? That is what is at the heart of this new moon. And your answer to that question will also guide you towards where to plant your seed of possibility. Because it's still a new moon, even though it's got this endings, beginnings energy, which is very Piscean, right? It's the last sign of the zodiac. So it's always going to signal some sort of ending, but then we boost right back into the beginning with Aries season on the horizon, which of course we'll be talking about here shortly. And in the sign of Pisces as well, when we're thinking about Pisces, we always need to be integrating where this touches us creatively. How does this impact creativity on some sort of level for you? Maybe you've worked through the narrative that blocked you from expressing or exploring the art or the craft that you feel pulling on you. But have you cleared the emotional context? Sometimes a narrative will linger longer because it has roots in our emotions that we haven't fully addressed yet. It's the, I think I should do this, but I feel like I can't. Or I feel like people like me don't, da-da-da-da-da. It's kind of this narrative that's entrapped inside of the feeling. That is a big part of what we are processing to release and then renew with this Pisces new moon. And there's a lot of support here for us to fly the kites of our creative endeavors and the passions that we want to pursue when the sun enters Aries. But we need to break the spells that we cast on ourselves through feeding feelings that don't serve our higher self-interests. And I say this all because we have the North Node still in Pisces, conjunct Mercury, who is wrapping up the retrograde period. You may have thought that you talk therapied your way through it, but just because you get a diploma doesn't mean that you've actually learned anything. It's the process of applying thoughts into practice, shifting feelings in real time, rewiring our brains to jump over holes that we used to fall into, and embracing the times we trip and fall anyway, and find ourselves climbing out, like the girl from The Ring. If you know, you know. With all the obscure horror movie references aside, the theme that I'm seeing with this Pisces new moon is one of embracing the beautiful impermanence of every moment and allowing ourselves to feel what we need to feel without allowing those feelings to flood us entirely and prevent us from making the moves that we need to make to pursue the passions that most excite us, to take the lid off of the jar of our own creativity, to express ourselves freely. We also have Jupiter, the ruler of this new moon, in a beautiful trine to Mars in Pisces, lending an extra boost of possibility into the energetic shifts that we're moving through. The world may be spinning faster than we want, but we are the wave makers of our internal oceans. We decide if we dive deep into processing feelings or drown it all out with more doom scrolling or distractions. Set the Black Mirror down, that is your phone by the way, and put on your flippy floppies because we're going swimming in a pool of limitless possibilities with this Pisces new moon. Then we say goodbye to Pisces season. Because on Friday, March 20th, the sun enters Aries and Aries season officially begins, which marks the official first day of spring, as well as the astrological new year. I always say that if you weren't feeling the new year, new me kind of vibe when 2026 began, and the thought of setting any New Year's resolutions didn't really inspire you at that time, that's probably because it was winter and everything was dead. Now that spring is here, in the Northern Hemisphere, it's time to bloom with the flowers and to break out a notebook to jot down what really lights your fire. Very Aries energy. And you don't need a 5-year plan. You just need one goal to aim for. And you don't have to summon that bullseye in this very moment. Allow it to find you as we step further into the Aries season. If you don't yet know what passion to pursue, allow it to find you as we step further into the Aries season. And this Aries season is going to be different with both Saturn and Neptune present. So we'd all be wise to give grace to ourselves and to others if the start of the season is a little bit hazy. The clouds will clear as we get further into Aries energy. So pick a pace that you can keep at without burning yourself out right away. Because also on Friday the 20th, Mercury stations direct at 8 degrees Pisces. And the crowd cheers. Hooray! The tech glitches begin to slow down, the miscommunications start to clear up, and the cyber attacks. Okay, well, I don't know if any of those are going to go away, so don't forget to change your passwords and set up that 2-factor authentication for any important accounts like your email or your bank login. And if the hackers are listening to this, please get rid of all of our student loan debt. And you know what? Fuck it. Get rid of all of the debt, please. Come on now. It's my call out to the universe. I'm sure other people can resonate with that, but Mercury being direct now is a relief. It also is still in its post-retrograde shadow period until April 9th. So just something to keep in mind, because while the main course of the retrograde is over, the boomerangs may still find you in the next couple of weeks. So if a conversation went unspoken or it went south, don't be surprised if it pops back up sometime between now and the first week into April. And keep in mind that even when something boomerangs back, it's not trying to come back and knock you down. It's coming back to say, hey, you get to roll the dice again. Let's try this over. Let's see if we can get a different result, hopefully a better one. Mercury retrogrades aren't here to personally victimize you like Regina George. They're here to help you reconsider, reimagine, and generally speaking, revisit things that are not quite finished yet. And with that, we have arrived at our last transit topic for March, which is on March 30th, a Monday, when Venus enters Taurus. This is always a lovely transit because Venus rules Taurus and is therefore comfortably at home in the sign of the bull. This is a 3-week-long period of stopping to smell the roses and then going into a cafe where someone compliments you because you smell like fresh roses. It's a sensual season. It's ripe for exploring pleasures in and of every sense. Take yourself to an art museum or a rose garden. Get a massage or a facial. Take some magic mushrooms and then touch the grass and talk to the trees because it feels like Taurus season, even though it isn't yet. It's only the beginning of Aries season. And that's the beauty of Venus in Taurus. It's a tug towards feeling good, which we all need to do more of in general, but especially in these continuously, quote, unprecedented times that we're moving through. And that brings us back to the tarot, which mirrors a story of momentum balanced by awareness as the Eight of Wands continues to move these big events forward. The Two of Cups reminds us that connection is key to keeping up with these continuously evolutionary times. And the Four of Swords encourages moments of pause so that we can move forward with clarity instead of exhaustion. If you're curious to learn what the astrological new year brings into your personal orbit, or how the transits of 2026 are unfolding in your own natal chart, you can always book a reading with me through the link in the show notes or in my Instagram bio at @SoulfulOfIt. Coming up in our April Part 1 episode, we'll talk about the Libra full moon, as well as both Mars and Mercury joining Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Happy Aries season, happy astrological new year. It's always a joy exploring the cards and the cosmos with you. Stay grounded, stay curious, stay soulful of it, and I'll catch up with you in April.